Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode 7. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us for this Monday edition, regular edition of the Terrible Podcast. Dave, so much going on with training camp and games, both previous and ones upcoming. Hall of Fame weekend that just wrapped up yesterday in Canton, Ohio. James Washington stuff, Kevin Dotson stuff, injury report. Man, we have a whole lot to discuss today.
We sure do, but what a week we just wrapped up, right? I mean, if you're a Steelers fan, I mean, you got to be on cloud nine right now. You had obviously the Hall of Fame game that took place last Thursday, and then you go on into the weekend, and all those Steelers being enshrined in Canton, and the great speeches, and a couple of practices since then on top of it. So it was a great week to be alive.
Absolutely. So we'll delve into all of that. Let's start, though, with some housekeeping. The Steelers made a roster move yesterday, signing running back Pete. Is it Guerrero? Do you know the last name?
That's why I understand it to be Pete Guerrero, yeah.
Pete Guerrero out of Monmouth. He spent time, I believe, with the Jets on their practice squad last season. He will wear
and Panthers, too. Yeah, a little bit with the Panthers, yeah.
Okay. He will wear number 30. For the Steelers with injuries to guys like Benny Snell and Kalen Ballage, the lines at running back getting a little thin. The team had an open roster spot still on their 90-man, so they did not have to release anybody in a corresponding move. So that is the news on Guerrero. Kind of run through yesterday.
Just in case the miracle happens there, I want to get out there fast, Petey Guerrero.
Okay. That's a nickname for him?
I just put it out there. I mean, he's fast. I tell you, I know it's Monmouth and all, but that kid can break some long runs. Like I don't know who's taller, you or him, but a couple, at least 20-something, 20 or more yards that I counted just from last season alone there. So maybe he'll get a carry or three late in the game against the Eagles on Thursday.
Not sure who's taller. I can promise you who's faster. It's not me. It's Petey.
They don't call you fast Alex Kozora, huh?
I sleep fast, don't run fast.
There you go.
That's the difference. Injury report from yesterday's practice. Those not practicing was defensive back Antoine Brooks Jr. It looks like a left knee, left leg with him. Benny Snell, still don't know the exact nature, but he was jogging, and so I think his return will be sooner than later. Running back Kalen Ballage was not even at Heinz Field with a lower body injury. Stephon Tuitt was not at Heinz Field either for the second straight day. Calvin Taylor with that left foot, although his foot's out of that boot he was wearing on Saturday, so that's a good sign. And Ray McLeod did not practice, looked like a right knee with him.
All right, where would you like to start? I think Tuitt's back away because of family, personal business and all like that. So hope he and his family's doing okay. And with 34 days, I guess, roughly until week one. You like to start seeing him start getting in those lines here before too terribly long. Obviously, no reason to be concerned. I don't think just yet. I think Dr. Mel yesterday in her terrible take addressed, should we be concerned about those two guys not practicing yet, talking about Tuitt and TJ Watt, and she laid it out really, really well there, I thought, as she usually does. So make sure to get over there and hear her thoughts on Watt and Tuitt not practicing yet. As far as some of the other guys go, it sounds overall, you're going to have, as Mike Tomlin would say, some bumps and bruises associated with whatever. It sounds like not doing bad overall. At least Benny Snell, moving around the field according to you and Josh Carney yesterday. So that's a good sign that at least probably not something season-ending there. We'll have to wait and see what's happening with Ballage and hopefully James Washington and Ray and I guess the most concerning right now as far as the new injury crowd goes would be the Antoine Brooks Jr. because you sure would like to keep him on the field. I know he's not a rookie, but those second-year guys, you got to get out there and start showing what you know. And there's been a lot of talk about him potentially having a shot at winning that nickel slot role or whatnot, and you can't do it on the sideline there. So I would say probably him and Ballage are would be the most concerning of the new crowd.
I would agree. Speaking of Dr. Mel, she'll have a special, almost emergency terrible take today, and that relates to one Kevin Dotson, not for an injury related, the fact that he's coming off an injury, it appears, and just the weirdness. He was back in team session for the first time in training camp yesterday. That was the good news.
You better get the hose out for that one, Alex. I'm telling you. She wanted she hit me up last night, said I really want to do the terrible take on Monday, so I bumped Alex Kozora down the schedule there, and this one might have some fire on it.
All right, I have not even listened to it yet, so I'm excited to do that later today. But yeah, Kevin Dotson, good news, he was back in team. I wouldn't call it necessarily bad news. The weird news is that he was running second-team left guard. Rashad Garrett's still running first-team left guard as he has for all of camp so far. Mike Tomlin asked about it after practice, and I don't have the exact quote here, and you probably remember it better than I do, Dave. But Tomlin basically said that he's a second-year guy that missed a bunch of time. What has he done to earn first-team reps? So it was a very aggressive, short answer about Kevin Dotson.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's aggressive because kind of the nature of kind of the question that went along with it there or whatnot. Here's my take on all this, and obviously people will try to point back. Well, is this stemming from him? Maybe a report from him not being in shape or those along those lines. My view on it is, why in the heck are you going to put a second-year guy in the first-team rep line if he hasn't even practiced yet? So far in training camp because of whatever injury he's dealing with. And according to him and according to, Brooke Pryor of ESPN, he is dealing with an injury. So, maybe this injury, because this is an injury Mike Tomlin's talked about since day one of training camp and really didn't let on like it was anything serious and that he expected. Just the overall kind of context made you feel like he wasn't going to be sidelined too terribly long. But here we are a couple weeks later and still sidelined. Maybe Tomlin's just ready to get the kid back on the field and all. But on the flip side, are you going to let a second-year player waltz right back in on and take first-team reps on his first practice back? And it seems like he was limited yesterday, was he not, even though he was back?
To some degree, it felt like, yes.
Okay. You're going to let him waltz right back in and get the first-team reps in front of a guy that's done everything that you've asked for him so far. In so many words, I view this as Mike Tomlin just saying, hey, let's make you earn it a little bit here, instead of waltzing right back into the front of the line. I know a lot of people, I never have... I don't want to ruin the terrible take that's coming today either. So I will let you. What are your thoughts? I don't think you think this is a case of Kevin Dotson being fat and out of shape, right?
Yeah, I don't get that sense still, because again, my stance is even if we accept that was true back in June, where there was some sort of weight or conditioning issue, would that still be an issue now at the start of training camp? Wouldn't he have solved that during that time, whenever it would have been, theoretically made clear to him that the team wasn't happy with where he was at? But I do think there's definitely some weirdness going on here, and I understand Tomlin's point about he's a second-year guy. What has he done to earn those first-team reps? But the way he said it was, he definitely could have said that a lot less aggressively. So that was just an interesting approach that he had to the question. And then, yes, I know that these guys are a little more older, a little more established, but Chuck Wilmore-Core misses all of camp. As soon as he's back in team, he's back first team. Zach Banner misses the start of camp, and even though he was limited, he's back first team, replacing a guy like Joe Haig, who had been there every single day. So, Dotson's the guy who doesn't get that first team rep immediately, even though he's projected as a starting left guard. So there is weirdness there. I couldn't tell you exactly what's going on, so it's hard for me to speculate and try to guess, what the actual reason of why he's running second team. I still think he'll be the first team left guard to start the season. Obviously, I know you do as well, Dave, but something is off about the situation.
My view on it is looking at this thing long term too. I don't think there's anybody in their right mind that think. And look, Rashad Coward, I understand the praise. I view this as. I kind of view it as Mike Tomlin want to make sure that Coward gets a little bit of attaboy in this as well too. With the fact that, this guy has done everything we've asked him. He's shown to have some position flexibility. veteran. What was his exact words? He said, "Man, I think he's done an excellent job. He has the mannerisms and the demeanor of a veteran, and that's needed, particularly when we're going through the transition that we're going through at that group, where we're missing some guys or work at that group. His level of maturity and experience is showing, and it's an asset to him and to us." That's a long response for Tomlin for a guy that's not supposed to, that more than likely isn't going to be a starter. So I think it's just more of a tip of a cap to him. For all the attrition that the offensive line has had so far there. Now, as we said on the wrap-up podcast yesterday, I don't think anybody in their right. Something has gone horribly wrong, in my opinion, if Rashad Coward, no disrespect, he's doing everything he's asking him to do, and I think you and I, right from the get-go, had him had him on our 53-man roster prediction as being, that ninth guy, or whatever you want to number you want to put on him there. But with that said, something I feel has gone horribly wrong if Kevin Dotson's not your starting left guard opposite Trey Turner. End of story, period there. And I think that's what's going to end up happening here.
Yeah, I think so too. But again, Joe Haig didn't get that courtesy of staying first team for an extra day or two when Banner came back, and nor did Dan Moore when Chooks came back. And again, the situations aren't necessarily 1-to-1 with Dotson versus Coward, but they're not too far off either. So again, is Tomlin...
Maybe Kevin Dotson was late for a meeting the other day.
Right, yeah. Or maybe Tomlin is frustrated that it took him this long to come back from his ankle injury, or maybe there is, theoretically some combination with some sort of off-season issue coupled with something else. That's what I'm saying here. There is some sort of extra level of weird, not normal stuff happening here that I can't figure out and I can't guess at, but it's not... Tomlin's answer was... weird. That's not a normal answer given the circumstances. He could have just said, something in a lot nicer way. And so that just tells me there's something going on that we don't know about.
Well, Kevin Dotson's been animate, all along, and even so yesterday that, he's been sidelined because he's been injured, and that yesterday was his first practice back. He might be limited. Look, we might get us, and this is another thing we hit on in the wrap up podcast on Sunday. There, we might get to Thursday against the Eagles, and Mike Tomlin might decide that Trey Turner's birth certificate has a contusion on it once again, and we might see Coward at right guard and Kevin Dotson at left guard to open this thing up. Now, obviously, Dotson's going to have to work a little bit more than just 7 shots or whatever. I think that was what he was in yesterday, right?
Yeah, at least 7 shots. I don't think I saw him on other team stuff, but I didn't. I'm not 100% positive on that, but he was at least in 7 shots.
Well, today would probably be a good day to kind of track Dotson, today and tomorrow, right? Because you got 2 more practices before you break before the game. If Dotson's not out there running first and second team in team proportion, probably a good bet he's probably not going to play, right?
Right. Yeah, I think he's 50-50 to play, and we'll see. But, again, do we still think that Dotson's going to be the guy week 1? I do. I said on the podcast last night, I'm not going to guarantee it because there is that weirdness with the situation. But I know that you did and will, and that's you're probably right.
Speaking of people that might play on Thursday, Mike Tomlin gave away some early free information on the NFL Network during his interview Sunday morning, claiming that this is a big week for Devin Bush and that the plan is to get him on the field against the Eagles. So he didn't obviously go into specifics. However, wasn't Devin Bush a little limited or something on Sunday?
Yeah, I don't know if he worked in team at all, or maybe just 1 or 2 sessions. I know that it was a lot of UG3 and Spillane as the pairing, but that's been normal. He's kind of been almost every other day type of work. So I think it's just kind of being careful with his snap count and load management, to steal the NBA term. So I think it's all just part of the process.
And what do you think about Keith Butler's comments on the inside linebacker depth chart and all?
In so many words, he just said basically, it's still wide open and guys are still trying to jockey for spots. Isn't that basically the gist of what he said?
Yeah, I mean, he was asked, are you going to look outside the organization? He said, he pawns that off. That's on, he's just basically, I'm just here to coach the guys that they bring in. At this point, I would be surprised at who you're going to bring in anyway. At this point, that could challenge, for a starting role. Anybody that you're going to bring in is going to probably be 27, 28 years old with some special teams ability, and as part of that conversation there, talking about the outside linebackers, and really you might as well say inside linebackers as well too. Keith Butler once again put the onus on Danny Smith and saying, look, some of these guys on the back end, those are decisions that Danny Smith's going to have, so that's why it's always important for these guys. I know people get tired of us talking about it year in, year out, and that's why we end up predicting the Tyler Matakaviches and the Anthony Chicolos and the, I don't know, name another one there.
Yeah, this year it's going to be the Miles Killebrews of the world.
Right. That's the reason that some of these guys are going to make the roster there, but it's fact that Steelers put a lot of value in, especially the backup linebackers and safeties, whether outside or inside, and their ability to play special teams. So one might have a better showing than another one on the field in defensive type settings, but if that player is not a good special teams player and the other one, is close to him and can play special teams, that's where the nod's going to go. That plain and simple. There's a lot to be desired out of the inside linebacker group this week against the Eagles. Let's just leave it that way. It would be interesting to see Bush and Spillane log about 10 to 12 to 13 to 14 snaps together. Maybe we'll get that. And then it'd be nice to see a guy like UG3, guy we've talked about quite a bit, this offseason, saying, man, his biggest obstacle is stay healthy. Right. Just for him to, let's up that bar to playing better and not getting confused in assignments, which sort of seems might have been the case once or twice the other night against the Cowboys.
Yeah, it seemed like on that one pass in the flat that the fullback got wide open, there was some sort of miscommunication. You just don't want to see that as a pattern. Those things are going to happen early in preseason action. I get that, but you want to not repeat those mistakes. That's the big key there.
All right, shall we get to the elephant in the room story?
Yeah, speaking of some roster weirdness here, we'll just kind of take you through the whole news and not news and whatever the speculation is and then kind of react to it. This was, and the days are mixed together, so I'm just going to say a couple days ago, Adam Schefter reported that James Washington had approached the Steelers asking for a trade, unhappy with his role in the offense and lack of time and action in preseason and camp play. And then Mike Tomlin was asked about that the following day, I believe, and He was kind of given an out. He was asked if James Washington had expressed unhappiness to him personally with his role. Tomlin said no. And then later that evening, I believe Jerry Dulac of the Post-Gazette reported more bluntly that James Washington has not asked the Steelers for a trade, according to multiple sources. So you have a heavy hitter in Schefter versus a local guy. What's fact? What's fiction? Hard to say for sure. And I'll pass the baton to you, Dave, and make you sift through all that and react to it.
This isn't like the USA, what I call it, was it the 400 meter where they just sloppy as all get up tossing that. Did you watch that race?
I didn't, but if they were, we're not going to be any better than them. So
okay, all right.
We're not going to be on the podium.
It wasn't a clean pass at all. Man, some of those guys are fast, man. I mean, you watch some of those guys come out of that track and field, those events, 100 and 200 meters, and even kind of the relays, man. Those guys, when they hit the jets, man, they are gone. I mean, I think who was it? Bill Murray that once said every event ought to have just an average person out there, just so we can see how different it is. Anyway, I digress. I will put it. I obviously don't know whether or not James Washington has gone to the Steelers and asked for a trade. I will say this. I have a nice screenshot of James Washington still being in the game, the first preseason game against the Dallas Cowboys at like the 6-minute mark of the third quarter. Okay, now you can look at that two different ways. You can say we want to give Dwayne Haskins some sort of somebody to work with out there with some experience. Or you can look at it as, man, we got to get James Washington some exposure out here. Maybe he'll make a play so we can deal him. Or, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different ways depending on what part of this narrative you want to jump with. I will tell you this. I think it's been evident since midway early last season that James Washington was fourth on the depth chart there, and that's not changing, barring injury. So, I mean, when you look at how many times this team's probably going to want to get 2 wide receivers on the field, try to get a guy like Derek Watt on the field, unless they change the rules or Matt Canada comes up with something I really would like to see, it's hard to get James Washington some snaps. And I think, nobody knows that more than probably James Washington right now at this point right now. So I guess I would say it wouldn't, maybe Washington is in his own circles, maybe has said, man, I sure would like to get somewhere where I can play. Schefter's a heavy hitter, man. Schefter does miss, but he doesn't miss often. He's like me, right? And then Jerry Dulac, come back so emphatic and say he has not requested a trade. All I will say is there's some smoke coming out of somewhere right now, and sometimes where there's smoke, smoke, there's fire.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Washington did ask for a trade, if we accept that premise for a moment and believe the initial report from Schefter, I would understand that because he is the clear number 4 receiver in a contract year, and he wants to get paid, and he's not going to get paid too well if he catches, 25, 30 passes this season for a couple hundred yards and 3 touchdowns or whatever the case is. So I would totally understand that from his perspective. And from the Steelers' perspective, I would say, James, I get that, but we need you. Because at some point, he's not going to be the number 4 this year. He's going to become the number 3 with an in-game injury or a long-term injury. The likelihood that your top 3 guys, Juju, Claypool, and Deontay, stay healthy the entire year are pretty low. And yes, you can mix and match and try to fill in the gaps with someone like Ray McCloud, but it's nice to have that vertical Z-threat receiver like James Washington. And given that his trade market value would be pretty slim, I would say, given the relative lack of production and him being a free agent after the season hurting your leverage, probably going to get, a 6th, 7th round pick, maybe a 5th at best. And so is it worth trading him in a year that you want to win now like the Steelers do for a late day 3 pick? I just don't think it's worth it. So my belief is that they're going to hold on to James Washington either because he hasn't asked for a trade or because he has, and the team's just deciding it's better to have him than not have him.
I think he's a great kid. I'm a big fan of his when he came out. Watched every target, 200-something targets, and I think even Mike Tomlin recently said during one of those mic'd up sessions I saw recently. He says, this kid's probably going to end up in the College Hall of Fame because of all the catches that he had in college. And just a great kid overall. Now, if would he be a number 1 or number 2 wide receiver on another team right now?
Most likely no. Probably a number 3, again, that situational vertical guy on most teams that would look to acquire him.
I would agree with that at this point right now. And on top of it, he is in the final year of his rookie contract. So whatever team, if there was a team willing to deal for him, you have that whole 1 year possible, unless you plan on extending him. And I can't see where a team, unless they were really in love with him, doing that after trading for him. He is in that 1 year rental category. Now, the 1 year rental category, obviously the price on that return wise depends on what are you talking about, an Amari Cooper type player here, or a guy that really can impact your team, or are you talking about I would say a fringe group guy, basically a number 3, number 4 guy there. And that's why I think, and I think I put on Twitter too, at most I could see the Steelers getting is a 5th round draft pick. Now, I'm not saying that they can't get higher, I don't know. Call the Raiders, right? Call Mike Mayock. Maybe he'll flip you a third for him or something like that. But from where I sit right now, I think a fifth would be fantastic. And if that's the case, man, why would attrition, like you say, is probably going to happen at some point. Why would you trade away cheap depth unless he's really causing a problem?
Right. And that he's not going to be an issue in that locker room.
Right. I just can't see James Washington being that guy that's causing problems in the locker room. And if that's the case, man, and if he is unhappy, which he probably might be, then he's just going to have to get past it. He's going to have to go out there and take advantage of control what he can control. And if he does that, then usually good things happen, and maybe he can leave next offseason and find a team willing to pay him, I don't know, $5, $6, $7 million or whatever, and get a fresh start that way. So I guess it's not. I mean, we've said it's impossible before, and somebody gets dealt. I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought maybe Marcus Gilbert? So some of these things that have happened in the past, you get flipped to 6 or a 7 for, along those lines there. I guess it's not impossible, but from where I sit right now, I would be surprised, and I really, unless the Steelers got their doors blown off, I don't think it's in their best interest to deal him.
To me, the least I would take in a trade for James Washington is a 5th-round pick. What is the least that you would have to get back to really consider trading James Washington?
Man,
because he's going to be gone after the season. Like, he's walking.
Right.
You can't play before that.
If I had a better feeling about some of these guys on the bottom end right now of the wide receiver depth chart sticking their head out, I would be more apt to say, okay, yeah, 5th, let him go. But I don't have that. And usually, I mean, I think ever since you've really been with the site and the show, it seems like every year we go, oh man, some of these wide receivers, deep, even some of these undrafted kids and whatnot. I just don't get the sense of that so far. And look, even Ray McLeod, I got to admit it, Alex, I don't have a Ray McLeod fathead up in my office in here, okay? And I have not bought his jersey. I get
some back order, though.
No, it's not. I get the whole return capabilities and all like that, but, outside of it, I think it's your top 3 and then James Washington, and then it's what the heck do you got if you got in a situation there? And I just don't – maybe in the next, 3 preseason games – somebody will stick their head out. Look, they have held on to – they could have very easily dumped Cody White and waived him injured to have him on injured reserve right now. So there's something there I think they like and want to see, and maybe we'll start seeing it against the Eagles. Obviously, Rico Bussey's had his moment or two. I think we talked about Isaiah McCoy right almost from the get-go. Could this be – I don't know, is James Washington light even a thing? I don't know. But is he a guy that can maybe you could assume that backup Z role or something? Can Bussey be that guy? Can maybe Cody White? Sexton's a guy that all the talk about him this week. These guys have to string this together more than just one practice and it being kind of the flavor of the week of us talking about. And I just don't see anybody on the bottom of that depth chart doing that right yet. So I guess, no to a 5th-round draft pick unless somebody pokes their head out here pretty soon.
So for you, the answer would be a 4th.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That would be correct, sir.
Okay. Anthony Miller just got dealt from Chicago to Houston. Chicago gave Miller and a 2022 7th-round pick for a 5th-round pick in 2022. So, and those are pretty comparable guys in terms of career arcs, both last year, the rookie contract.
I like Miller coming out.
Yeah, he's had some good plays. It's like in a bad quarterback situation, and now he's in also a bad quarterback situation in Houston. Second, they draft Justin Fields, so feel for the guy. So potentially you could get a 5th. Not saying it's impossible, but to me that's the minimum bar, and it may be more likely a 6th or 7th round pick. If you had to guess a team that might be interested, I've heard a lot about, and this is just people just speculating. It's not actually anything substantial, but I've heard about. I think the Saints have been, the most common place, quote unquote, linked to James Washington. Any other teams that kind of strike you?
What about over there in Indy?
Yeah, I thought about Indy. Yeah.
I think you got Pittman over there, and look, T.Y. Hilton's getting up there now, right?
Hmm.
Trying to think who else across the league.
I'll give you one. And I started to write the article, and then Dulac's report came in, and so I canned this article of this potential trade scenario. I'm not necessarily advocating for this, but a team that I think makes the most amount of sense: the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know they drafted Devonta Smith and they have Jalen Reagor, but in terms of their number 3 and on, it gets a little dicey. Travis Fulgham's there, but it's a new regime, new coaching staff, and Fulgham had the big game versus Pittsburgh last year, then kind of died off the rest of the way. So I could see Washington being that another big play threat for them. And I love connections, Dave. I love the coaching connections. This guy knew him, coached him in college, and there is one there in Philadelphia. Jamel Singleton, who's the assistant head coach / running backs coach, was with Oklahoma State in 2014, Washington's freshman season, where he still had a decent season in his first year with the Cowboys. And so there was a connection there. They got a couple of 5th-round picks, the Eagles do. So could I see a 5th-round pick for next year for James Washington? That's something that, to me at least, is logical. Will it happen? Who the heck knows? But I was kind of piecing that together the other day.
And that's why I pay you the big bucks. And we're going to stop the podcast right here so I can mark the master tape right here. So that's a good call. I think if it look, and here's the thing, that's a little bit of, I wouldn't say it a shot call, but it's obviously great analysis on your part of connecting the dots there, and we are big on that, like you said, when it comes to the site. I'm going to connect another. What if maybe the Steelers feel a good chance, and maybe we talk about, okay, well, what's going on the bottom of the wide receiver roster there? It's not overly great there, and what about, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago with our buddy John Eisenberg, right? There's a couple of wide receivers over there. One of those couple probably not going to make the 53 over there. And I'm talking about Miles Boykin and Devin Duvernay, my boy. Two of the guys in Steelers, seemingly had a little bit of interest in both those guys there. What if you thought maybe you could deal away at James Washington, get a 5th, and then on the flip side, fill it with somebody. It doesn't necessarily have to be Boykin or Devin Duvernay, but maybe another wide receiver that's on the fringe that you think that could help you, and then also that player maybe be a tad bit more position flexible, but also give you some special teams value.
I think it's a good point.
And Duvernay, kind of fits that mold, right? There, and look, Boykin can, Boykin needs to be reset again, probably, and he's not going to be able to get that. I don't think right now, with Baltimore there. So I don't know. Maybe that's something we look back and say, oh, look at there. They traded away Washington for a 5th, and hello, Miles Boykin or Devin Duvernay. We're not obviously, would bet money on that happening, but I think you could maybe, the way the Steelers work in the past, you could maybe potentially see something like that happen.
And in that hypothetical, you're suggesting that they would trade Washington and then Duvernay or Boykin or both would get cut and they would claim him that way. You're not suggesting a trade with Baltimore.
No, not a trade between those two teams. And look, I mean, you can't etch in stone that Duvernay or Boykin are going to get cut, because things could obviously happen there. I'm just speculating there. They would be things totally separate of each other.
Right.
There. And you're not trading Washington because you think, oh boy, we'll wait and see if but I think that could be part of the process. And once again, not just Boykin or Devin Duvernay. You might think that, look, one of these 6 or 7 wide receivers we scout during the preseason probably going to come open here, and that would give us an opportunity to go that way.
Right. Yeah. No. Your point is they would trade Washington and then acquire through some mechanism or another some other established receiver, as opposed to elevating a Rico Bussey or a Sexton or McCoy or someone like that into that Washington spot on the roster, which I would agree with. Because again, I mean, Bussey and McCoy, those guys have occasionally flashed, sure, but none of those guys have been consistent or proven enough to make you feel comfortable about replacing a James Washington.
And look, if one of those guys too would step up on special teams and make it a little bit easier too, because as a fourth or fifth wide receiver on this depth chart, if you're going to dress, you better have some special teams value, and that would certainly help those kids come. But we got 34 more days to go, so I'll be reading your practice reports, and we'll obviously be looking at the tape during the preseason. Maybe one of those kids will start stepping up there more consistently instead of us just having a flavor wide receiver of the week.
That's a good point. One other just random proposal with the Eagles I was kicking around. If you don't want to do if the Eagles don't want to do the draft pick, trade James Washington to Philadelphia for a 7th round pick and Matt Pryor, a versatile offensive lineman. He's played guard, he's played tackle, started 10 games for the Eagles last season. Don't think he's in line to start this year though. That's some player pick, made up trade in my head I was thinking about as well.
You've been playing Madden or something, or what? Did you turn the salary cap function off?
Off immediately. Fantasy draft on, salary cap off. Built a good team. Kevin Colbert, sending him my resume. But yeah, that's ultimately. Do you think James Washington gets traded? I don't.
I don't. I'm 80% that he won't.
Okay, 80%. I'm about the same. So that's
don't give me the about. You got to jump the fence. I am 80.5%. Now that's a weird number, so you're gonna have to take the over or the under there.
$1. $1. Yeah, I'm with you. All right, Dave. Let's talk about what do you want to talk about first? The Hall of Fame.
How about Keith Butler letting the cat? I'm missing my victory lap here.
What's that?
The T.J. Watt situation here.
Oh yeah, the contract status. Yeah, Keith Butler was asked about why T.J. Watt hasn't practiced, or if it was related to his contract, and Butler didn't officially affirm it, but basically did, saying that hey, if I was in that position, I wouldn't want to practice either.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't get a rocket surgeon award or any heart scientist award here, but this wasn't hard to figure out, I don't think, right?
Yeah, just to me, the question is just logistically, how long does this go on for? Because
until he signs a contract.
Well, if it hasn't been done, is it he won't practice at all in team until week 1 when he's getting on the plane, a la Troy? Is that really where this thing could go?
I think it very well could. I mean, look, personally, my target is this week in the next few days, but that's just speculation on it would make the most sense that you got the Hall of Fame stuff behind you. You got Art Rooney back in town, and Omar and all those guys, and you can sit down and the parameters aren't hard here, right? Technically.
It's hard and it's easy because
I've never done one of these deals. I would like to be in there to see one of these things, the negotiations put together on this. But I'd like to think that I have enough experience with the salary cap and Steelers contracts that I could probably loosely come close to putting one together. The way that this thing's going to pan out here. Now the main question in all this right now is, will Steelers serve with structure and guarantees outside of just the signing bonus only? And if they don't, as Joel Corey told me, you gotta pay a little bit more up front for the vehicle there, and that means probably a $30 million new money average, and obviously the couple year options early in the process, and injury guarantees. I mean, to me, it's not hard to put together a deal. You just got to get everybody together and on the same page and work out the minor minutia.
Yeah, devil's in the details of any deal, especially one as massive as this one will be.
And so I would think that this week would be the week because you get it done, you get it behind you. Obviously, TJ not going to play. Even if a deal got announced today, TJ's not going to play against the Eagles. And then you would have you would think only one of the 2 remaining games you'd like to get him out there lathered up in, right? And
I'm okay if he sits the entire preseason. I'll give him a series or 2, I guess, but if he sits the whole time, I'm okay with that. I just want him to practice in team.
Well, he could get injured just as easy in practice as he could in a game.
Yeah, well, you gotta practice him at some point.
We're talking about practice.
Not a game. Not a game. But I'm just saying, like, okay, if it gets done this week, that's fine. But what if it's 2 weeks from now and a deal still hasn't been reached? Is he still just gonna work on the side? He can get hurt on the side too. He can get hurt.
Sure, but I mean, you talking about risk management here, and the different degrees of it. I don't think he does. I don't think he does anything in team, Alex, until he signs that deal. And I think pretty much that's what Keith Butler was trying to tell us. And look, I said in my terrible take, a couple Thursdays ago or last, I forget where it was, but I don't hate the guy one bit. I look, at least he showed up to camp, because Steelers are not going to deal with you if you don't show up. Period. Right? I mean,
Heinz learned that.
Right. I mean, so show up, do your stuff on the side, help your teammates out. And there was probably, a lot of people probably don't want him in there right now at this point. But I did say once they got out of the Cowboys game that this was a week to find out really what side of the fence TJ Watt is on, because now's the time where you've had enough conditioning time, and if there's no injury concern or whatnot, that you should be getting some team stuff going on here, even if it is your star player. If that doesn't happen this week, then yeah, it's 100% contract, and I don't think anybody at that point really should expect TJ to work in practice until he signs that. I mean, you're talking generational. I mean, why should he? I mean, we know who he is. Everybody knows who he is, right? This isn't a troublemaker here. This is a flat-out business decision.
Right, and I'm okay with that. And to your point, I suppose that, if a deal does not get done, he just won't practice, because what's the alternative? He just starts practicing a week and a half from now, even though the contract hasn't been done. I mean, you're not going to do the about face. So hopefully that just means that both sides are very confident a deal will get done, and they're all acting in good faith, and hopefully a deal gets reached within a week or two.
It will get reached.
Okay.
And it will probably be more closer to the $30 million new money mark. And that assumes that that the only interest I have in this right now, Alex, when it comes to Watt, is whether or not the Steelers break service on the guaranteed money. I'm that confident, and okay. I was that confident a year ago. People said, I don't know about Cameron Hayward. I said it's going to get done. It's going to get done. It got done. I'm that confident about Watt getting done. It's just now I just want to see if the Steelers decide to break serve on non-quarterback guaranteed money.
I am confident it will get done. I just don't know when that's going to be. I'm just curious on the when. It could be tomorrow. It could be August 30th. I have no idea.
Right. Look, I don't want to. Should we throw the hypothetical out there if it doesn't get done? I don't think so, because it'll get done.
Yeah. All right, Dave. What do you want to talk about first? The Hall of Fame game or Hall of Fame weekend? Both equally fun to talk about. I'll let you choose here.
The Hall of Fame game, real quick. I thought we said we were going to circle back to what the offensive line and defensive line. I think we've eaten up a lot. Everything else kind of related to that there. Thank goodness you and I got good, clean TV copies, and shout out to VLC Player. If you're not using, they're not a sponsor of the show, but what a great player that is, right? Go through that. You can get through that game 4 times really, really quickly there that way. Overall, top to bottom offensive line, I was impressed, Alex, to be quite honest with you. Even some of those third team, the Waltons, and who was the left guard in there?
Brandon Walton was the left guard.
Who was the left tackle?
Avante Collins.
Right, Avante Collins. Even they, I thought, had their moments where they looked good in there. So my overall take on the offensive line, look, you obviously missed a lot of starters in there, but I thought top to bottom that group represented themselves well. Specifically, you want to talk about some of the starters and some of the interior guys there. You highlighted Kendrick Green a couple times there. That's your backup fullback. I'm just calling it right now. That guy.
Also, your starting center in week 1. Let's
right.
Call that. I think
right.
We can almost call that.
Right. That guy's your. We said the bar wasn't low, but I mean, I think he more than cleared the bar in that first preseason. That guy can motor, can he not? A guy can really move out in space. I think we kind of knew that, but I mean, you really see that point A to point B. I mean, that guy could play downhill linebacker probably for you too, if you lost a little bit of weight there. But I just thought top to bottom offensive line, all three units, and they did use three units. The only kind of difference in the first and second unit, I think, was J.C. Hassenauer at center versus Kendrick Green, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think overall the O-line played better. They weren't super sloppy. There wasn't, a lot of missed blitzes or stunts and things like that. And maybe they played well because they played so much, because the starters have been out. And so they just been getting all the reps. They get more reps than usual second and third string guys do. So maybe that actually worked out in their benefit for this game. But, Hassenauer, and obviously it helped that he was going against backups and things like that. But I like his finish. I like his aggressiveness, and I think it's going to endear himself to Adrian Clem in particular, because he's not a big guy, he's not a super athletic guy, but he does work hard and does finish, and I can appreciate that.
So look, I mean, kudos to Adrian Clem so far to have those guys, because you kind of wonder without having those several of your starters not working and all in that game, which probably wasn't going to be the case if everybody was healthy anyway. Although I don't know, probably Dotson would have played if he'd been healthy in that game, and Chukwuma Okorafor at left tackle as well too. So probably the only one with a contused birth certificate maybe in that game, or two of them really, would have been Trey Turner at right guard, and probably Zach Banner still coming off of trying to rehab final stages of that knee injury there. But once again, we'll see if that can roll over in, what is the offensive line going to look like against the Eagles? Will they have Dotson in there? Will they give Trey Turner a few snaps? It sounds like if you're going to get a guy like Devin Bush maybe out on the field on defensive side of football, maybe this is the game to get Trey Turner about 5 or 6 or 8 snaps or whatnot on top of it. I don't know. I don't have a clue what's going to happen with Zach Banner. Maybe you do. As we talk, we'll have to see what happens with Dotson. Maybe these next 2 practices will let us know about Dotson. It sounds like Okorafor is back in the lines now, so if he can stay there, you would think he's going to play against the Eagles as well too. So looking kind of ahead there, we're going to have a few other offensive linemen to look at Thursday night.
Yeah, my guess, it's just a guess, but my guess is you'll see Zach Banner start at right tackle, Okorafor left tackle, and Turner at right guard, and Green at center. And Dotson, I'm not sure of, but you'll have, I think, at least 80% of your projected week 1 offensive line playing in this game.
All right, defensive side of football on that front, I think we wanted to talk about that. I thought Carlos Davis and Isaiah Buggs both represented themselves well. Really going back through it again, I thought Davis outplayed him just a little bit. It wasn't drastic. I thought both of those guys represented themselves well. Loudermilk got pushed around a little bit too much for my liking, and I think in so many words, Keith Butler said the other day, he's got to get stronger. Got to get stronger there. I thought Henry Mondeau played relatively well. Now, look, there were a couple plays there, and I think Buggs was in on one of them where, and I think maybe Loudermilk. Anyway, they got hit up the gut a couple of times on a couple of runs there. But I thought as pass rushers go, I thought they did a fairly good job in some of them twists and stunts. And look, not only did the edge guys get pressure in there, I think you saw a couple of those defensive linemen get a little bit of pressure as well there too. So my main issue, I think, overall with the play of the defense the other night was the inside linebacker play. And Justin Lane had a good and bad couple moments in there, and then Norwood, we talked a little bit about him on the wrap up podcast I think last night there. I'd like to see him be able to come downfield and be a little bit more physical and more want to in that aspect there. But defensive line, I was pretty pleased with both sides of the football there, both lines.
I was too. I thought they played overall really well, top to bottom, basically. I thought Loudermilk did a good job getting off of blocks. I mean, he was shedding blocks routinely, and that was the big thing. I wondered a question: could he, he could take control of the block, but could he actually disengage and shed? And I thought overall his hand use was a positive in that game. I thought Buggs had some really good moments again with his hand use, his burst. He's a really talented guy when it comes together. Did it with Carlos Davis, and Mondo looked good as well. So again, this defensive line, I was making my roster prediction today for the site, my updated roster prediction, and trying to figure out that defensive line is by far going to be, I think, the hardest choices to make this preseason.
Shout out to Chris Wormley too. I thought he played good in his snaps. Remember earlier in the offseason, I said they got to re-sign him because he owes them some money, or owes them some snaps for some of that money there. So, man, hopefully if Wormley can be more comfortable, and Wormley did come on late last season. We agree on that. It was very late, right after he got back from that knee injury.
Yeah, once he got healthy, sure.
We started to see maybe some things of why the Steelers had traded for him, even though $2 million is still kind of raised my eyebrows about that, especially for the amount of snaps that he played there. But if he can continue to progress, and once again, I thought he played good against the Cowboys there. And look, we're not going to see Hayward, Tuitt, and Alu probably but about 10 snaps, maybe at most, during the rest of the preseason there. But it will be interesting to watch. Look, they're probably going to keep 6, right? We already know who. I would assume you have Wormley as a lock right now, right?
Again, not in that same sentence as Hayward, but yeah, I mean, it would take so much for me to not have Chris Wormley on this roster.
I mean, it comes down to 5 and 6 then, numbers 5 and 6. Do they does Loudermilk can Loudermilk show enough to really, really warrant having, even though he's probably, wouldn't be one that would dress, can he show enough, the rest of the way here to warrant him being kept on the 53? I think that's the biggest question. And then I think they like Carlos Davis, so I would pencil. Did you have him on your 53?
Yeah, let me just run through my D-line here. Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, Chris Wormley, Isaiah Loudermilk, and Tyson Alualu, and Carlos Davis are the 6 on my latest projection.
You're dumping your boy Bugs, are you?
No, Bugs isn't my boy. Mondo's my boy.
Oh, okay.
I think both. You can make cases for either of those guys, and I have them both on the practice squad.
Okay.
Because this is just a very tough decision, and I don't know who's going to win this job.
I would have the same 6 that you have there.
Okay. Yeah, it's close though, really, really close. So, any other takeaways from the Hall of Fame game? I thought conceptually Matt Canada's offense, some more bunch and spacing concepts, some of the boot stuff and window dressing, some of those where they would fake the jet to the one side and then boot away and hit the wing in the flat. I thought worked well, got some guys open. So definitely felt some of that Canada flavor to this offense as expected. And Dwayne Haskins, I thought was fine, but I did think he was a little too quick to hit the underneath routes, especially on third down in this game. Sometimes where I think he could have waited and tried to push the ball downfield a little bit more than he did.
I'm glad you waited till later in the show to get on Haskins, because we're just losing. We're losing listenership now. There.
Playing the long game on the podcast.
Some level stuff in there too from Canada. That's obviously some good to see, especially when you have quarterbacks going out to one side there. Now the quality of the personnel in there. You have you can't have your wing. Your Trey Edmonds losing his feet coming out, because he's the middle portion of that level, and he automatically runs himself out of play when he's on the ground, right?
Did that happen? Oh yeah, that was near the goal line.
Yeah, that was in that goal line situation there. And I think the tight end might have got kind of hung up on the lower level. I think if the tight end was going to be the lower level, I think Edmonds was going to be the middle level, and then I think you had Sexton running the over from the backside, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
And then Dobbs didn't have anywhere to throw the football, at that point. But it was good to see. I think like 3 or 4 different times we saw examples of that, and then also, like you said, you have on the boots on the backside kind of stuff happening too.
Yeah, there was one play where they tried to run a power run to the right, and Edmonds was the backside wing pulling across, and he ran in the Hassenauer on the back block, and it blew the whole play up. So obviously there were still some things to work on. The fumbled handoff we talked about back on Friday's show. So definitely things that have to be cleaned up, but definitely getting that feel of what Canada is going to bring to this offense.
Report some pistol you saw. You saw a pistol.
I did?
Didn't you?
They did it once yesterday in practice in 7 shots. I don't
That's
think
what
they
I'm
did
getting
it in
at.
the game. Okay, I wasn't sure where we were going with that. I haven't seen it a whole lot. It's been less than what I thought. I mean, we'll see what happens in the regular season. I've still seen it, so it's part of the offense to some degree. But I saw it early in camp. Kind of haven't seen it in the middle, and then I saw it one snap yesterday.
All right. Are we missing anything to go over here? Oh, the Hall of Fame itself, the ceremonies and all, right?
Yeah, what a wonderful weekend. I don't think you'll ever see 5 Steelers enshrine the Canton in the same weekend again. And this year was obviously because of the combined classes and centennial class.
You're talking to me
year.
when you're saying that, right? Because you
I don't think I'll see it. I don't
you don't think I'm going to live that much longer, do you?
You're going to outlive us all. You're going to be like 150 years old.
No,
somehow, like the key to immortality is like Diet Mountain Dew and Monster, and you found the recipe.
But when they cut me open, that guy's going to get a surprise. You know what?
Throw some Mentos in that body.
Going to be pickled.
Yeah. But anyway, on a happier note, let's try that. The Hall of Fame weekend. And yeah, great speeches by Alan Faneca and Bill Cowher and Troy and Donnie Shell, just all class, and so many references to the Steelers culture. And that was just really heartening to see the respect for the organization.
Man, I can do without them putting these 10-minute time limits or whatever they are on him on these guys, though. And look, I understand you have 2 classes, technically going in and all like that. Why not split that thing up into like, I don't know, 3? I know why. I mean, it's all money related, but I just sitting there watching poor Peyton Manning have to rush through his speech. How good it would have been to watch Peyton Manning do things on his own pace there and have 20 minutes,
Yeah, but the first 5 minutes were jokes. He's doing like his tight 5 to start, so he didn't
right.
necessarily...
But you get into the middle, boy, he was rushing through it, And
yeah, because he told like 300 jokes at the start of it. I think
that's who he is, man.
I know, but you can't. You got to pick one. You can either tell jokes or tell your life story. You can't do both.
Yeah, well, you can't do either of those in like the 6 or 7 minutes there. But Faneca, I thought, had a nice message and a very touching inspiration in Faneca's message, as was with Troy, and just really touching the way shout out to his wife and kids the way he did as well too there. So I thought he did it. Boy, Troy, Troy's another one of those ones that may take your watch off and let him just talk as however much he wants to talk there. But I thought top to bottom, just and maybe it's because I'm getting older and more sentimental, and a lot of these guys I grew up actually watching play. That's when you know when you're getting old, when some of these guys that you watch play. The prime of their careers from the 70s and 80s and all start getting in there. That's when you start to know that you're getting old there. But I thought top to bottom it was just really, really put together. And look, I'm not a big Chris Berman fan. Maybe way back to the old days with the prime time with him and Tom Jackson. That was when Chris Berman was in the saddle there. That's what he was, I think, put on this earth to do, was NFL primetime. But outside of that, I kind of could, in the mode of take or leave, Chris Berman. But I'll tell you this, Chris Berman was, I think, put on this earth to MC that thing. The Hall of Fame inductions and all like that. I thought he was very, very good at that as well too. Once again, as you stated, boy, so many Steelers going in there, and if you're a Steelers fan, and I think our own Ross McCorkle was there for this. I mean, had to be a extremely exhilarating time to be a Steelers fan this past week in general.
I talked to a couple Steeler fans who were in Canton, and they just said it was just awesome. It was like 80% plus Steeler fans, and obviously because it's a short trip from Pittsburgh to Canton, so just took over Canton, Ohio, and that was cool to see. And taking my Steelers bias out of it for a moment, I think my favorite speech of the whole weekend was Jimbo Covert, a Western PA guy, and just a very Yinzer speech, and so that one was really good. And the busts were amazing.
Fantastic!
Edge's bust was great. The hair they did. The hair on Troy that was really good. They should not
careful here.
They should not do bust with teeth. Just if you show teeth, I think it just looks a little off. But I still think it was pretty good. But overall, the bust top to bottom, as you said, they've just been getting better and better every single season. And this year, I think was an all timer.
I don't know. Maybe that's me going old man too now, and thinking that, oh man, they're getting a lot better at that now. But I tell you, Drew Pearson, boy, that looked just like him.
Mm-hmm.
When Drew Pearson played and Edger, I thought that bus was great. I thought several of them were great. I hate to be that guy, but I think Troy's could have been better. How is that? Is that the polite way of saying it?
If he was just smiling without the teeth, I think it would have looked better. From a distance, when they first showed it, I thought it looked really good, but then I got an up close look and it looked a little less good. But
a little less good.
But who am I to judge? I mean, I can't.
That's like I write more gooder.
But who am I to judge? I mean, I can't draw. I'm the worst artist in the world, so I'm not going to throw stones.
I just thought overall, top to bottom, the busts were good. Were very good. Troy's could have been better. Let's just put it that way.
But that aside, a wonderful weekend. Great to see all the Steelers Hall of Famers. Again, I'm glad Troy was able to attend in general. Got there Saturday, got there right on time for his speech. So I was obviously thrilled that he could be there in person for it.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else we're missing here? We're right at about an hour and.
Yeah. Any reader emails? Any question or two that we've received?
I think we do. Good call there. Let's see if I can jump over to the email machine real quick here.
And again, Steelers at practice today and tomorrow, off on Wednesday to the public at least, and the game against the Eagles on Thursday. So that'll be a busy week.
And let's see. And I guess we have Mike Tomlin probably speaking on Tuesday again, I would think, right?
I would imagine. Yep.
All right, let's get this one out here from Stylebender writes in. Tomlin says Dotson hasn't earned first-team reps and, quote-unquote, has done nothing. Were the reports about him out of shape true, or does he have an injury that's held him back? Either way, our starters needs reps together. Stylebender, I think you heard Alex and I talk about that early in the show, so we're not going to readdress that. And then I invite all of you to listen to Melanie, Dr. Mel's at Girl Surgeon's Terrible Take. It's an emergency terrible take today, so you're probably not going to want to miss that one. She talked about Kevin Dotson and all this stuff that's going on with him. Our buddy Xerxes writes back in. David Alex, are the Steelers in trouble at inside linebacker? Spillane as a starter scares me. He was absolutely lost in the Hall of Fame game. His recognition of run versus pass was poor. He doesn't shed blocks well. Even last year, he's easily fooled by misdirection. He looked slow, which Alex noted in camp too. Do we chalk this up to a bad preseason game? He says, I'm saying rosaries and I'm not even Catholic. Talk me down. I'll tell you this. We've seen better games better showings out of Robert Spillane. I'm not opening up the window just yet to jump out. But, I mean, he is obviously you don't want him to have to play 900 snaps during the season.
Yeah, I'm with you. Thought he had a good day in practice yesterday, for whatever that's worth. Don't think he had his best game on Thursday. I think the fact that Devin Bush returns makes those issues a lot less magnified when you're getting a high caliber player like Devin Bush. And so you can kind of deal with, Spillane's issues better because you have a guy like 55 on the field who's going to be your 3-down guy. So you're not counting on Spillane or someone else to be an every down player. So understand your point. I'm not going to overreact to just one game. We'll see how the rest of the preseason goes. But as of right now, I'm not as concerned as I think you are.
Thomas Purr writes in, good afternoon, Dave and Alex. Assuming the Steelers entertain the idea of trading James Washington, do you call New England and offer Washington for Chase Winovich? Straight up. All the best, Tom. Look, maybe a couple of weeks ago, Tom, but I tell you, we've talked, since this team's acquired Melvin Ingram now, look, I still, if Chase Winovich wound up with the Steelers, I wouldn't totally poo-poo the idea, obviously there, but I don't think Chase could play some special teams for you. He would obviously be expected to, but if all three of those top three outside linebackers can stay healthy, man, and the way the progress looks like Alex Highsmith has made so far, that's a tough top three, man. I mean, it really does kind of rival their top three last year at this point. Now, we'll see, but I guess he's asking, would I do Washington for Chase Winovich straight up? Probably at this point, probably not, because I'd much rather have the wide receiver depth, and I'm the guy that was kind of put the Chase Winovich stuff into motion earlier in the offseason there. So, I don't know. Your thoughts, Alex?
What's his contract? His contract runs through next year. Winovich's does. Ingram's only on a 1-year deal. Would I do it? Probably not, but I think there is some value even longer term than just this season.
Right. Let's see. Andreas, did we hit this one the other day, 4 days ago? Hello, base. Do you think O-line should be improving fast? Yeah, we already hit on that there. So I think we've got at least the top emails here out of the way. All right, you're back at practice today. Going to be recapping everything, and you and I.
If I don't pass out, it's gonna be 90 today. It's gonna be a hot one.
Did you get any of those showers the other day that came through there or no?
Yesterday. It just poured out of the blue, and I'm huddled over my notes. I didn't care about me, but the notes had to be protected. So, yeah, it was fun getting rained on yesterday.
Yeah, you had the waterproof paper and all?
I didn't, because they didn't call it was going to – they didn't say it was going to rain. They said there was no chance, so I didn't bring it. And so I just had my waterproof pen and my regular notebook. So we all survived, though. You'll be happy to know.
All right. A lot of people coming out there and saying hi to you?
A couple, and I'm very appreciative and thankful for that. And far too kind. I promise I'm sure I'm disappointing many people when they meet me in person and go, "Oh, this guy kind of sucks." But
now I want you to be totally honest with me here.
Mm-hmm.
How many people come out and say, "What the hell are you doing with Dave?" how many complaints about me do you get? Come on, I'm a big boy. I can take it.
I've sincerely gotten 0 complaints. One guy, though, and I don't understand this. I guess he just follows me on Twitter. I don't think he knew who you were because I was talking about you, and I don't think he really understood who I was referring to.
Oh, okay.
So there was one. He has to just be someone that just follows me on Twitter and doesn't. I don't know. I don't know how they could follow me and not really know who you are. He's a very nice person, so I'm not trying to be mean at all, but. That was a little strange.
So 0 complaints about me? Do you what's a normal complaint ratio about me?
0. No one. I mean, I don't know. Okay. Not during the regular.
You're just trying to be nice to me.
No one's out. No, everyone's been happy.
You sign any autographs or no?
No, please. I hope no one's life is that depressing that they would ask me for an autograph. Ask for anyone else's autograph.
All right, we will not be doing the YouTube. There's not enough hours in a day until they clone me, and God help you if that ever happens. We're not going to be doing the YouTube live stream tonight, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not sure how the schedule is going to go. I still want to do it because I know people want to ask about camp and stuff. So maybe Wednesday. I will keep you posted.
Yeah, why don't we try? Because Wednesday might be the better day to do that because they're not practicing, right?
Right, but
you want to go ahead and set it officially now so people listen and know, or no? Or do you want to wait?
We'll have the Wednesday show that we can at least do because I gotta still see. I think my mom wants to know I still exist at some point, so I might want to say hello to her. So I'll let you know.
I took a shower last night for the first time in like 10 days. How about that? All right. So in the meantime, let's see. You and I'll be back at it later on tonight. Follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, please go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the donate button up right navigational bar. We certainly would appreciate a PayPal donation that way. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the ad-free button for $25 for 1 calendar year. You can get an ad-free version of the site. Even though this is a regular podcast, shout out to Lynn Testa at Touring Plans on Twitter, touringplans.com if you want to go to the website. Longtime sponsor of the Alex going to training camp and all like that. So we want to make sure we shout him out this time of year as much as possible there. So Alex, get in that Porsche and get over there to Heinz Field, please. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.